Hello and welcome to this video that's going to be all about my favorite person, Joe Alwyn.
Me?
Please, can we change the channel?
No, this is interesting.
Leanne?
It happens to be very interesting, actually.
Because normal people.
I didn't say that.
Hey, this is Joe Alwyn.
I have a lot to tell you guys, so I can tell you straight away to go grab some popcorn because this is going to be a long one. Yay! Let's do this. His full name is Joseph, or Joe, Matthew Alwyn. And for those of you who've never heard of him before, he is a British actor who, since he started his career in 2015, has done many films and movies both in the UK and US. We begin in 1991, where he was born on the 21st of February. Side note, this makes him a Pisces, but despite what you might read in some articles, he's much more than that. And even though he was born in the sign of the fish, we all know he really is a cat.
The whiskers, it's the whiskers, right? Yeah.
Joe was born in Tunbridge Wells in Kent, England, but raised in Tufnell Park and the Crouch End area of northern London. And he seems to have had a pretty great and normal childhood. Like I said, totally normal. So he grew up in a middle-class family with his parents and his two brothers. His father is called Richard Alwyn, and he is a documentary filmmaker. And this is his mother, Elizabeth Meekins, who is a psychotherapist. Joe has not talked a lot about his parents and his childhood in interviews, but there are a few things mentioned. He also grew up watching a lot of films, and he thinks maybe that is where his love for acting comes from. You can pause to read these outtakes. Growing up, him and his family apparently had a few different pets. Like a fish, as most knows. Rest in peace, Rainbow Star.
Growing up, we had so many pets in the house, from tortoises to guinea pigs to mice, but I think the first pet I had was a fish, which isn't as glamorous. And it was called Rainbow Star, after Rainbow Star.
He is also known to have a dog named Flint, but we don't know much about that.
I have one dog called Flint.
Joe has an older brother named Tom, or Thomas, who is about 1.5 years older than Joe, and he works with digital communications. He also has a younger brother named Patrick. And Patrick is quite a bit younger, as he was born when Joe was 12 years old. We have managed to get some pictures of him growing up, even though he does not post a lot about himself on social media. However, Patrick has recently been doing some acting of his own. So it sounds like Patrick has taken over Joe's interest for acting, which he apparently has always had, but didn't always plan on pursuing as a career. As a teenager, he secretly began Googling drama school, and he knew that he always secretly wanted to be a part of that world. But Joe actually did audition for a film already when he was a little kid, and that was for no film other than Love Actually, which he was introduced to because of his love for the film Mask of Sorrow.
So you, as a child, they tell us you were obsessed with Zorro?
I was, yeah. I was obsessed with it. I used to run around the house scratching little Zeds under sofas and radiators and tables and...
Your mother must have loved that. Did?
Yeah, because of that, me and a friend took up fencing lessons and decided we wanted to, you know, ride around on horses and wave swords and chase Catherine Zeta-Jones. And...
You auditioned for one of my favorite movies.
What was that?
Love Actually.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Actually, that came about because of Zorro. Because I took these fencing lessons, they'll often send casting directors around to schools and community centres. So this local community centre where I took fencing lessons, this brilliant UK casting director called Shaheen Baig, she came around and she saw me there. And it meant that I got time off school to go to this audition. So I went to it, reading some scenes.
Incredible.
Joe did not get this role in the end and went on to have a more traditional childhood instead of becoming a child star. His first job was actually in a frozen yogurt shop called Snog in London. Growing up, Joe played a lot of different sports and was part of sports teams. But he later began to take acting classes and do theater. His first theater role was actually in a production of Tintin as a child. Joe first attended the City of London School and graduated as class of 2009 at 18 years old, and went on to later study English and Literature and Drama at the University of Bristol, where he got his Bachelor of Arts in 2012.
Well, the locals here in Bristol don't seem to like us very much, and you can always hear them saying kind of those students this and waste of space that.
He then headed to the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama to study acting. There, he starred in a lot of school productions, for example, a remake of a scene from Orange is the New Black that he did with his mates.
Besides, I'm going to see a brass band at Zebulon tonight.
Oh, yeah? The Hungry March band, right? I was supposed to go to that.
Really?
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah, but then... I sat down. Gravity works very strongly on me. Especially when it's sweltering outside and Zombieland is playing for the 400th time.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm plant sitting, so, you know, if I went anywhere, I'd have to take them with me, and I'm not sure they're all over 18.
From there, Joe signed with an agent and was represented by Independent Talent Group in the UK. In his third and last year, he actually got his debut film role right before his graduation. The story of how he got this role is really, really interesting, and I suggest you read more about it. But here is some basic information. His agent got him the script, and he made a small video which was sent to Ang Lee, the director. He then wanted Joe to come to New York to do some testing. And one day turned into two, which turned into three. And then it was decided that he was going to get the role.
This is your first role?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah.
Fantastic job.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, I've read stories how you auditioned for this, though, but you were in college and you just showed up. Is that true?
I was at drama school till last year, and I was in my final year. And I did an audition. I was sent some sides by my agent. I did a couple of tapes of some scenes. And they put me on a plane a couple of days later and flew me over here to meet Ang. And we read through a ton of scenes. And I stayed for about 10 days or so in New York and Atlanta and did a big screen test. And we did costume and makeup and whatever, and ran through all the bits and pieces. And about 10 days or so after leaving, I got back home and got a call the next day saying, you got it and you're leaving in like 3 days. So it happened very, very quickly.
We haven't decided who to cast for Billy Lynn. Of course, Billy Lynn's long half-time walk. You gotta find the right boy to carry the movie. Joe was still in drama school, and the first week he signed with a young agent. By Friday, I said, we gotta see this young man. And we flew him in the following day. It was a very cold day, I remember. He was freezing, he had a small jacket. It was kind of freezing. I was just hoping this person can act.
And so we read and tested, and there was something about Joe that presented both the kind of blank slate that the film required Billy to be, and yet the complexity that goes on in the mind that then gets translated in the eyes and in the face.
Then the studio wants to test him more because it's unknown. Then we realized he's supposed to fly back the next day. He only have one pair of socks and one underwear. And that small jacket is all he had.
Well, Joe now considers this his lucky jacket.
This is my lucky jacket.
It's lucky because I wore it for an audition, which was my first audition, and I got the part. I was lucky enough to get the part, which was a film called Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk. When I went over there, I turned 24, I think, and I didn't know anyone. And my family sent me some flowers, I think, to the hotel I was staying in, and so I found the other day, Preston here, like a card from the flower company and a card from my family. Nostalgic memories.
This was a very big thing for him coming there with no previous film experience, but he did a great job.
It's been pretty amazing, yeah, working with Ang. Obviously, it's a first-time job. It's just not the kind of person you expect to come out and fall into the hands of.
The greatness about using young talent, unexperienced talent, is just the sheer effort they try to give you what you want, the earnesty. Somebody like Joe, really, really well trained, knows depth and has the skill, but never do anything professionally. That's like a beauty. If you find a talent, it's really a beauty. Joe is a top-notch talent. It's great to have somebody like that to carry us through the movie. You read into his mind.
Joe Alwyn was fantastic in the role.
I have a lot of respect for him.
He really embodied the mannerisms of what I would think a Billy would be.
Joe really captured that in that character.
I was a fan from the second I worked with him. I'm really, really proud of his performance.
Coming onto a film like this, he's just been killing it.
I think he's the most honest, present. I think that he's incredible in this. I don't think there's anyone else that could have played him.
So, Joe's first film role was in Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, which was released in 2016. In the film, Joe plays the character Billy, a young soldier who becomes a hero after a battle in Iraq. Not only was this Joe's first time on a film set, it was also his first time in America, and for this role, he had to put on an American Texas accent.
I actually love this story because you starred with Steve Martin, who I love, that he thought that your accent was fake. Because this film, was it based in Texas? Is that what it...
Yeah.
Okay, so you had an American accent, and you just kept that all the time.
I guess I kept it around him. Yeah.
And then, like, why are you speaking with a British accent to me?
I guess, I mean, I don't remember keeping it all the time, but I did sometimes, and I guess I did when I was around Steve Martin for some reason. And then, yeah, I got to, like, press day a few months, you know, like a year later, and he was like, ah, you're English.
I mean, job well done.
He says that after this ended, everyone else stayed in America while he had to go back home, walk the dog the next day, and do everything as normal. He says life continued. And yes, it did. But soon after, he was cast again for other roles, and his career had just begun. Joe's next role was in the film The Sense of an Ending, which came out in 2017. Where he played a small role as Adrian Finn.
Tony Webster. I'm Adrian Finn.
And his next role was as Klaus in Operation Finale, a film about the Nazis, where Joe plays the son of Adolf Eichmann, Klaus, alongside Haley Lou Richardson. He also had a small role as Henry in Boy Erased, which is about LGBTQ issues. His career was now starting to take shape, and his unique authenticity got him cast in even more films, as he caught the attention of famous directors like Yorgos Lanthimos. One of his bigger roles he went on to star in 2018, where he played in The Favourite, next to Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, and Rachel Weisz. The film is about the power dynamics and romantic entanglements within the court of Queen Anne. Joe's role is as Samuel Marsham,
What was your favorite aspect about this particular role?
I liked all of it, but I suppose I liked some of the more absurd, bigger physical moments. So some of the interplay with Emma's character, the chasing around in the forest, the dancing with Rachel, just the kind of absurdity and the size of it was fun to play with. And it was just a new experience wearing high heels and running around in wigs and makeup, but it was incredible.
This film actually went on to win an Oscar. He also had a similar role in Mary Queen of Scots from the same year, where he played Robert Dudley, who was a close confidant and rumored lover of Queen Elizabeth I, who is played by Margot Robbie, and it also stars Saoirse Ronan. It was then time to once again dress up in period costumes. This is where he started to take on some darker characters. The film, Harriet, is about the true story of Harriet Tubman. And Alwyn here plays Gideon, who is the plantation owner from which Harriet escaped. And Harriet is played by Cynthia Erivo. He says it was tricky to connect with a character that was such a horrible person. Coming back to again work with Guy Pearce, Joe starred as Bob Cratchit in a remake of the classic Charles Dickens story, A Christmas Carol, which came out around Christmas time in 2019.
It was very hot filming it because it was summer and we wear a lot of clothes, but no, it's exciting to be a part of something, a story that people have kind of loved for so long and means a lot to a lot of people, and to put a slightly new, darker, fresher spin on it, it's exciting.
In 2021, Joe played Lauren Sterling in the Netflix special The Last Letter from Your Lover, where he plays the role of a wealthy and controlling husband to one of the main characters, played by Shailene Woodley. He also has a really small part as James in The Souvenir Part 2. Another big breakthrough role was the adaptation of Sally Rooney's novel Conversations with Friends that came out in 2022, where Joe plays Nick Conway. This series has 4 main characters, and Joe is one of them, next to Frances, who is played by Alison Oliver. This was actually her first role, and she says in interviews that Joe helped her a lot. He also starred in Stars at Noon. In Stars at Noon, Joe plays Daniel, a mysterious English businessman who meets the protagonist, played by Margaret Qualley. He then went on to play Uncle George in Catherine Called Birdie. Birdie is played by Bella Ramsey, and in this story, he plays the brother of her dad, who is played by Andrew Scott, who Joe became real good friends with. He also starred in a very short film about longing. Just recently, Joe came back to again work with the Favorites director Yorgos Lanthimos on another project called Kinds of Kindness, where he also stars with Emma Stone again from the same film, as well as Margaret Qualley from Stars at Noon and many other famous actors. In Kinds of Kindness, there are 3 different parts, and Joe plays 3 different characters in each part. Those are the ones that have come out so far. We are currently waiting for the release of The Brutalist and Hamnet, which is currently filming. However, The Brutalist did premiere with the first screening at the Venice Film Festival this year. This is a historical drama about a Holocaust survivor, and here Joe will again be seen with Guy Pearce and Felicity Jones. As mentioned, he is currently filming for Hamnet, a film that's going to be based on William Shakespeare. And, as you can tell by the clothing in these behind-the-scenes pictures, this is another period piece.
Joe, you're absolutely no stranger to period pieces. What is it about this genre that you enjoy so much?
Yeah, Joe. Have I done that many? I was trying to think about this because everyone says, I've done a couple. I'm not particularly drawn to them. I could be drawn to any genre as long as, or any kind of script as long as it's exciting and has got people that make you feel alive and you want to work with.
So these are a lot of very different roles. Both period pieces and newer adaptations.
There's lots of period costumes in this. Was this nice to kind of play a contemporary person?
It was really nice not to get into some form of a corset and get on a horse. Yeah, to wear a t-shirt and jeans was quite refreshing and saves a lot of time. As much as I love a bit of sword fighting and a period film, it was nice to be in the 21st century.
And Joe has been praised for his ability to bring depth to both leading and supporting roles, often in complex and challenging films. Joe is willing to take on any type of role and is actually not looking for bigger roles. He has described that he wants to do the films that he finds most interesting. Therefore, he is known for being selective with the roles he takes on. Something that is known about him is his reservation when it comes to the idea of fame. He is not a person who is looking for fame or recognition. He has mentioned in interviews that he prefers to keep his personal life separate from his public persona, focusing on his work. However, he did have a quite public relationship with Taylor Swift, and something that not a lot of people know is that he can play a bit of piano, and somehow he accidentally ended up writing some songs with her during the time they spent together during the COVID-19 lockdown. For example, he wrote the songs Exile, Betty, Champagne Problems, Coney Island, Evermore, and also Sweet Nothing, that she then put on her albums. And these are some really amazing songs. Even though he's not always recognized for his work on her albums, he is credited under the name William Bowery, a name inspired by his grandfather, who was a composer for classical music.
We chose to do it so that people first and foremost would listen to the music first before dissecting the fact that we did it together.
In interviews, he has described this as him just messing around on the piano or singing something he made up in the house, and Taylor overhearing this and wanting to make it into a song. How one just does that, I do not know. Maybe he is secretly a musical genius. One thing about Joe is that he is a very private person, and he has spoken a lot about this in interviews when asked. He will occasionally come on Instagram with a random photo dump and then disappear again. Sometimes these photo dumps are about filming, and sometimes they are from his personal life. But the most we see from him are from red carpets and other events. He says that he doesn't really know how to do these things online, but he has also explained that putting things out there on the internet makes people think that they have a right to an opinion. This was a very big thing that happened when him and Taylor broke up. A lot of people started speculating and writing things online. There, it was probably good for him that he stayed offline. However, he seems to have been navigating the media attention surrounding his breakup with her very well, even though he did explain in this interview how challenging it was to deal with the public scrutiny. You can pause to read here what he had to say about this. Despite, he emphasizes that he is now in a very good place, both personally and professionally. He spends his time with friends and family. He still has a lot of friends from school, but he also has a personal friendship with some of his co-stars. As a relatively private individual, he doesn't often discuss his friendships, but he has, over his career, made a lot of friends within the industry. Joe seems like such a likable person to be around. He's very kind to all of his friends and fans, and everyone he works with. I have only ever heard great things.
I don't think people would be surprised, but just how much everyone loves Joe Alwyn. How much everyone fell in love with Joe Alwyn. I mean, I don't know if anyone would be surprised by that. He's the true English gent, but I completely owe my heart to Joe Alwyn.
Yeah, Joe Alwyn does come in and steal the hearts of everyone around. He's just like the most genuine, kind, present human. Funny.
And you can't even say his name, Joe. You have to say full name, Joe Alwyn.
Except for Joe. I think Joe
lovely.
was like the only sound one, to be honest.
And Joe is the nicest person, like the nicest person. So I know it was hard.
It's true. No, Joe's the best.
When he interacts with fans, he's always very nice to them, hugs them, and asks their name. He also interacts sometimes with his fans online, for example by liking their Instagram posts. He doesn't often speak out about things, but when he does, he's very clear about his opinions and his values. For example, his stance with the Gaza situation. He's known to be very sane and down to earth. He has a keen interest in literature and has mentioned in interviews his love for reading and how much it influences his approach to understanding his characters and their storytelling.
First book I remember reading, well, beyond The Hungry Caterpillar, The Famous Five, that jumps out, Secret Garden, Silver Sword, anything with a bit of a journey and a bit of adventure. The Hobbit. The Hobbit was a big one. I love The Hobbit, yeah. I'm gonna say A Little Life. It punches you in the gut. I love that book. I really love that book.
But he also has a very goofy and funny side to him. For example, he is a big fan of The Office.
I remember as a family, we would watch reruns of Fawlty Towers. I mean, it still holds up today. So funny, the writing and the performances. Well, best TV show, I'm gonna say the UK Office. I like the American one as well, but the UK one, there is like rarely a day or two that goes by without a quote or a reference somewhere in my life.
Joe even posted in one of his Instagram story photo dumps that he has a mug with the UK Office logo. So, now you know a lot about Joe Alwyn, and there is even more to find out. I would suggest subscribing to this channel and following me on social media to learn more. But I couldn't have done this video without the help of these amazing people. These are some of the best Instagram fan accounts for Joe. They keep us updated on everything that is going on with him and his films and other projects. I would strongly suggest checking them out and giving them a follow. But don't forget to also follow me. This is my account on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but Joe has actually liked one of my posts on Instagram. So if you go follow me, you can be just like this amazing man. Just saying. And while you're here, check out some of my other videos about Joe. Thank you so much for watching. What are you still doing here?